All right, let's talk about one of these fitness training myths that'll never die. Now, around the late 1990s, maybe early 2000s, maybe even a little bit earlier than that, this window of opportunity mantra started being propagated widely. And what does this mean? It means that within the hour after you train, there's a window of opportunity where if you take in a lot of nutrition, you're gonna soak it up in your muscles, cells, and liver. Your insulin sensitivity is high. It's gonna push all this nutrition, more nutrition into those areas than would be possible otherwise. That's the working theory. But it has to happen within that hour after training. After that, you lose that window of opportunity. Now, this sounds exciting. It's like, oh, cool, man, window of opportunity. Who doesn't like a window of opportunity? Whenever it presents itself. Let me take advantage of that window of opportunity. So what people would do is they would be on a treadmill walking for 30 minutes, and then they would go get a protein shake afterwards that probably has 1,000 calories in it, probably 70 grams of sugar. They're taking in all this post-workout nutrition. Now, here's the problem. First of all, does nutrition after training help with recovery? Sure, but it doesn't have to be within that hour. There was a researcher on Carl Lenore's show, Superhuman Radio, and Carl's the best in the business on fitness podcasts. And this researcher stated that in the studies they did, as long as you had nutrition within 4 hours of completing your training session, you got the complete recovery benefits of taking in nutrition. So as long as you consume something within a couple hours, you're ready to go. And here's the other thing. If you have a meal 2 hours before you train, it's not as if all that nutrition is being used for the workout. It takes a while for your body to metabolize nutrition and turn it into ATP to be readily available for a training session. So some of that nutrition is just sitting there waiting to what? Help you recover after you work out. Here's another point. Let's say you're 100 pounds overweight and you go through a hard workout. You have so much excess body fat, this is not a judgment, it's just a fact, that your body can use some of that stored energy to help you recover. It doesn't mean that you should skip having nutrition after a training session. Have it within 4 hours. If you're actually really hungry after a workout, you don't have to wait a couple hours. Go ahead and eat. Myself personally, after a hard workout, I'm not hungry at all. Maybe 2 hours later, I start getting really hungry, and that's when I take in nutrition. I don't feel this. Sometimes I take it in after training if I'm hungry. Most of the time I don't, though. I let my hunger dictate. So why was this whole post-training window pushed so much? Well, guess what happened after this advice came out? Every supplement company started coming out with some post-workout shake. We have pre-workout drinks. Now it was post-workout recovery. Usually it was loaded with protein and a lot of amino acids and a lot of times simple sugars too, so that you would get an insulin spike. And the theory here is that you get an insulin spike and then it pushes that nutrition where it needs to go. Well, here's the thing though, you don't need an aggressive insulin spike to get the same job done. In fact, if the insulin spike is too high, it's going to push too much out of your bloodstream. Your blood sugar is going to drop dramatically, and now you're going to have this ravenous hunger to keep going. So if you have insulin sensitivity, you get a moderate insulin response in your post-workout meal. That's plenty to push it where it needs to go. And also remember what I said about the plant saturation method when I talked about insulin sensitivity. If I pour 1 cup of water into a plant, it'll absorb all of that. Now, if I pour 3 cups, it's still only absorbing 1. The other 2 are just going to be sitting there. Now, in the context of your body, once your muscle cells and liver are nourished, any nutrition beyond that is going to go to stored body fat. Simple as that. So let your hunger dictate when you eat. Don't be paranoid about having post-workout nutrition, thinking that, oh, if I don't get something in within an hour, I'm going to miss this window of opportunity. You're better off taking 3 to 5 caps of my systemic enzyme product, Restorezyme, that actually mitigates inflammation. But what it really does, though, is it mitigates the need for inflammation, because after your workout, your body has an inflammatory response to help with recovery. What Restorezyme does is it doesn't suppress that inflammatory response, but what systemic enzymes do is induce healing, so you don't have to have such an aggressive inflammatory response to begin the recovery process. And less inflammation, faster recovery, you're ready to go again. I mean, inflammation is actually really important. You want arachidonic acid. You want to have good levels of arachidonic acid as an essential fatty acid, which actually increases inflammation. And the reason being is that that inflammatory process does help a recovery, and then it helps with muscle building and building strength and performance. So the goal is not to get inflammation down to zero. You just don't want it. You don't want an aggressive inflammatory response, because now it does more damage than good. An inflammatory response, good. An overly inflammatory response, not so good. And so many people have such poor diets that they're in this inflamed state as it is. And now you have inflammation on top of inflammation, and it just compounds. And that can be disastrous. And that's all I have to say about this. I don't think I have anything else to say.